show what we're wearing?
Sure. Yeah.
You want to go first?
I am wearing the Okra Moss sweater by Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits.
It's so beautiful.
And I've been wearing it like, I'm not joking, almost every day for the last 3 weeks. It is so warm. And because it's like a mock neck, I can wear even like a high neck. See, I'm like cheating because I it's not that the wool's not soft, but it's nice to have an underlayer sometimes, especially right now in January when it's really cold outside. But it was a bottom up construction, and this is only the second time that I've knit a bottom up. So I kind of knew what I was doing. What I really like about this design is that you have to do the sleeves. We don't have to, but you do the sleeves first. That's how it's written. And it's, you know, nobody likes knitting sleeves, but you knit them as single tubes, right? And they stand on their own, right? And then you're just done with those first. And you get it out of the way. And then once you've done the body and you join the sleeves, you're like, I'm basically done, right? It's all raglan, like decreases from here. So just like goes so fast once you're done with that.
That's awesome.
The yarn I used, so this is, I don't know if I should be disclosing this, but it was like one of those back to school days, like one of those teacher in service days. I think it was the first day back to school in September before kids came back. And we were in like our 9 a.m. teacher meeting. And I knew that the Cori confetti yarn made by La Bien Amie was going to like go live at 9 a.m. my time, what totally different time, in France, but I was like, I know I'm in a meeting, but I'm going to be on my phone and I'm going to buy this yarn. And I like got it right at 9 a.m. I was like refreshing the page just so I was like ready at 9 a.m. and I got it. And so I was saving it for like the perfect project. So it's got little flecks of recycled fibers in here. So there you can catch like the red there. There's a pink, there's a green. So it's really fun. It's got little color pops. And then the white color here, well, now it doesn't really look white anymore because I've worn it so much, it's like getting dirty. But it's made locally. So I have the imported French yarn mixed with the local, made like a mile from my house, Abundant Earth fiber. And it's merino and then something else. I forget the other fiber in there, but it's all wool, but it's really sturdy, like woolen spun. And so it's really great. It like maintains structure. It's not really floppy at all. So it's really great blended with the Cori confetti. So I love it. It's like a mix of home yarn and fancy international yarn.
Weight?
It's worth I think it's written as DK, but I think the white is DK and then the Cori is worsted. Gotcha. So I just kind of mixed the two.
Nice. Fun.
Yeah.
I love it so much. It looks so cozy.
It's so cozy. Like I don't even feel cold when I go outside. Actually, my legs are colder in my jeans and better because it's so warm.
Yeah. It's been we're in Seattle. It's been snowing here for like basically since the day after Christmas. I think it started snowing and it's now January 2nd. So it stopped snowing, but it hasn't really warmed up like they said it was going to. So I don't know about where you are. Well, it looks very snowy where you are. Where I am, there's still like the streets are still snowy. And Seattle, for those of you who might not know, Seattle doesn't like do great in the snow. So stuff closes and we don't have a lot of plows. And so life just kind of shuts down a little bit more than it does a lot of other places. Plus it's like this here, like everything's a hill. So yeah, so my kid is supposed to go back to school and you're supposed to go back to school. So I'm hoping that it starts to melt at least off the road so that we can be a little more functional. But anyway, let's see. I'm wearing my Shifty sweater, which is also patterned by Andrea Mowry. This one is made in Spin Cycle, dyed in the wool, which is their sport weight. And the main color is Payback, which it's hard to sort of discern the main color, I guess, from everything else, but it's what the collar is in, which is just like a light, it's like a bit lighter. So it's like the background color here, but it also fades into like purples and stuff. So it's kind of hard to tell, but anyway, it's that. And then there's three contrast colors: Overpasses, Cataclysm, and Nostalgia. Nostalgia is the really purple one. And then Cataclysm is the more sort of greeny tone, and then Overpasses is the blue. So this sweater for me is old. I mean, old, relatively speaking. I test it for her. I was a test knitter for this pattern, so
It's beautiful.
and since it came out, and because because I tested it, it kind of, I will say the yoke for me, as you can see, it's like rolling. It's like a little too big in the yoke. So, and I've heard this for a few other people, because the fit of the sweater, you can't really see it. The fit of the sweater is kind of boxy as written, which I like. I mean, I don't mind by any means. But I think because it's boxier, then there's just more material here. So I know several people now, and it's not like this for everybody, right? So it's just like right, that's the beauty of knitting or making your own clothes, and period, is that you can kind of customize it for what you need. So I really want to make another one. And I know several people now that have sort of modified the pattern, like done less increases in the tops, that it doesn't roll as much, or even made their same size but in like a needle size down, so it's like a little bit more fitted. So I really want to make another one. And then when we went to Spin Cycle Supply Co., Micah, who's one of the amazing dyers at Spin Cycle, she had on a shifty that was like a solid color in the background. I can't remember now if she used Metamorphic or Wilder, but she used one of their solids in the background, and then just did a single color of Spin Cycle. I forget what she picked, State of the Forest maybe, as all of the little mosaic blippies, and it was so awesome. Like I loved hers, and she had modified it too because she was having similar problems, so she had modified hers so it was a little like more fitted, and I loved it. So like now I'm obsessed with trying to find like my perfect dyed in the wool that I want to make. When I was up there, I did get a nocturne color that I really love, so I thought about making a nocturne version with like a solid color in the background, but we'll see. And I do have some Metamorphic actually that it might pair with, but anyway, but I love this sweater. It's so beautiful and like comfy to wear and really pretty. And I think if you are able to make it with Spin Cycle, or you choose to make it with Spin Cycle, it is a place, the whole Shift series is a place where I think the Spin Cycle really gets to shine, because it plays with each other and it does get to do all of its shifting. So it always ends up looking so pretty and unique. And I love that about Spin Cycle. So
I love that sweater so much.
it's like
that's on my in my queue.
You should make it. You should totally make it. It's gorgeous, and it's fun to make because, well, you made the night shift. I don't know. I found that the patterning on all these shift ones, which is mosaic knitting, is really like rhythmic and easy to memorize, and so it becomes that just sort of like, I don't know. For me, I guess it's almost like brioche has that same feeling where it's like meditative, in a way that's different than just knitting garter.
Yeah.
But it's so rhythmic that it's like, you don't have to, it's not like your cables.
Right. I know.
Read a crazy chart and like, all the things. So
yeah. This sweater is the first sweater I've knit where I've knit continental.
Ooh.
Because I usually am like, when I do color work, I've always thrown both strands, which I know is slower, but my tension has been fine. It's been fine. It's just been kind of slow. But this time, because it was like every other stitch, color work, it was kind of getting annoying. There were no like, 3 or 4 at a time in one color. So it was like really slow. So I trained my left hand to hold the yarn, and it was clunky for the first maybe like 5 or 6 rounds. And then I kind of got it. Like there was like muscle memory, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm a continental knitter now. In a way, it was really fun. But yeah, speaking to the rhythmic knits, definitely not the cable one that's in. Well, I cast that one on, but it's I haven't gotten to the scary charts yet. So
I'm sure it'll be fine. Cables are fun in a different way.
Yeah.
I learned color work two-handed. It's the only way I've ever known to knit color work, but it was also similar for me. Like I've been a thrower forever, and so it was like at that moment in that class, I took a class, and like in that class where I like had to teach myself in a hurry how to knit continental, which wasn't the holding the yarn part was okay because I crochet. And so when you crochet, you hold the yarn in your left hand and you hook with your right. So,
Hmm.
but when you when you crochet, you do the opposite, you wrap the opposite direction from when you knit continentally.
Mhm.
So that took me a while to sort of relearn that because I kept making all my stitches backwards. At first I was like, why are these all so twisted? I'm like, oh, so I'm trying to crochet them and that's not working. Um, but I feel like I'm decently fast at two-handed color work now that way, but I wouldn't consider myself a continental knitter until I make a whole project.
Yeah,
And
where
it's
it's
been on my
just like
list to do actually, is maybe I'll do it in 2022. But I need just a very simple, maybe like a shawl, or I don't know, even just a simple sweater would work. But I need something that doesn't have a lot of crazy things in it. But I want to knit a whole, whatever, a whole pattern continental.
well, we do have the Lapoof coming up.
Yeah, I don't think
Just
that's the
saying.
one. Or a test knit. I don't think that's the one either.
No.
But I just need something simple. I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll have to find it. Mm. But yeah, speaking of things to do in 2022, we thought we'd come up with a few resolutions, knitting resolutions for the year, or goals, or whatever word you like to use, for your sort of restart to the year. So one for me is to be more intentional about tests that I apply for or take on. I love doing tests. I love test knitting. Um, Mostly I love knitting on a deadline because it gives me some structure, and it's fun to knit new patterns and to work with the designers and the other testers for feedback and things like that. So testing is super fun and I love it. And I think sometimes I get asked to take on tests and I don't say no when I should, or when I'm not maybe as in love with the project, or when I know the deadlines won't work for me. There was at one point last year where I had so many people asking me and I had a really hard time saying no, which I think is true for so many people in life. Um, I don't know, for me personally, like I don't want to let people down, when they reach out to me and things like that. And I had like 3 tests going with deadlines within like a week of each other. And it was just like, it was too much, and I like testing, but I'm not a good tester if I can't complete what I say I'm going to complete, and it's not fair to the designer and it stresses me out. So, and then I'm not like enjoying my knitting. So, one of my big resolutions is to just be more intentional about what tests I apply for, what tests I take, not to have more than one test going at a time. That's a big one for me. I don't know if you find me on Ravelry, you'll see like almost every one of my projects this year is like something test, something test, something test. Like I don't know that there's one project I made this year that wasn't a test knit. I'm serious. Like,
Yeah,
it was too much. How
that's
about for
it
you?
can
What's one for
be
you?
stressful.
Yeah, it is stressful.
Well, I want to, well, so I did just purchase yarn, like it was before New Year's, but it was when Mindy was of Chrysalis Yarn Co. was doing a big end of year sale, so I had to take advantage. But my one of my resolutions is to knit from stash, and I think I can do it. I don't have a lot of fingering weight yarn, and a lot of it is crazy, funky, variegated, speckly colors. So if I do pick up a test and it requires like a solid or a tonal, that'll be difficult. But I think that's important to me, is to get through my stash. And I think maybe the year after, if I'm getting really ambitious, maybe trying to do a lot of scrappy projects and see how much of my stash I can use up. But so that's one. I had another knit related resolution, but I just blanked. So I don't know if
I want to
you.
knit out of my stash too. I mean, I feel like I have this resolution every year. And then, as you said, I pick up tests, and then tests require certain things. And then I don't have them because, I mean, you can see my stash back there. It's big, but I also tend to purchase in projects because I'm not good at just buying yarn to buy yarn. Very occasionally, I will be like, this skein is beautiful, I need it, or it's a one of a kind from a dyer. I just bought some nano Stitch Labs. They had like a one of a kind. They call them like their science experiments because everything there is scientific based for names or whatever. But And I was like, oh, this is beautiful. And because it was a one of a kind, they're not going to make it again. Right. So I did buy that. But I will say, actually, while I was sitting in the store, I was like, what can I make with this before I bought it? So I knew how much to buy. But I tend to purchase in projects. So sitting in these bins back here, by and large, is like project after project after project that's like ready to go. But I'm always testing, and I don't want to tear my projects apart. And even then, like I often test sweaters and I just don't buy sweater quantities. Like I almost never stash sweater quantities of yarn. So I'm having to buy yarn all the time for tests. So yeah, I think one of my big resolutions is to try and knit the projects I already have yarn for back there, because they just hang out and I want to make those things.
Yeah.
They're just so alluring. Why are they so alluring?
I know. It's because you want to be the first to knit the cool thing, you know. I feel you on that.
Yeah. I feel like that's part of it. And then I think also people reach out to me now, and then that's where my it's hard to say no part comes in, because I just
Yeah.
yeah, that's hard. It's hard for me to say no. I need to be better. I need to be better about that, just period, for 2022. Like saying no when I can't put things in my life, piggybacking on the knitting from stash and projects, my third resolution, so more intentional with tests and knit more from my stash, is to finish all my WIPs, which I don't know that will ever happen, but I feel like I either need to finish them or frog them at this point. Some are very small, so I think they're froggable. The ones that are like more along their way, I would just like to finish. Like most of those projects I'm still interested in finishing. I'm in the middle of a project and then I get a test, and then I drop it. So testing, and maybe testing is my problem.
Yeah, maybe you just limit it to like one test every 3 months or something.
Yeah, that would only be 4 tests a year. That's not
Yeah.
All of this being said, you know what I did this morning?
You signed up for a test.
I applied for a test.
Yeah, I recently did too.
Yeah. So we can all see that resolution scoring really good. I'm doing a really good job. I will say it was one that I was watching for, where it was announced like, I don't know, sometime earlier in December that it would be going into testing. So it was a little more intentional, because sometimes I just see like a testing call and I'm like, oh, I'll just apply for it, or whatever. And it's just like very spur of the moment. Those are the ones that I always am like, why did I do this? Like, I don't have the time,
Yeah.
or I wanted to make the thing in that moment, but then like when it came down to it, like I actually really could have waited for the pattern to come out. Like I didn't need to make it now,
Right.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know how great I'm doing at that. I did give myself kind of a new rule that before I cast something new on, unless it's like a test, I need to finish a WIP.
I like that.
I gave myself that rule this year. So
I did over the holiday break get down to 1 WIP.
What?
And then I cast on a second one, and then we're gonna do the LaPouf. So I'm gonna be up back to 3. And I don't think I've exceeded maybe 5.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, I got down to my 1 WIP is the one that I cast on was it August or July for my husband's birthday?
Oh yeah, that was a while ago.
Was supposed to turn into his Christmas present that is now gonna maybe turn into, I don't know. When it gets done, it gets done. I am on Sleeve Island, so I am progressing, but it's just there's, other than the kangaroo pocket and then the hood, which that's like the very last thing I get to do. It's just stockinette and the round, and it's one color and there's no color work, and there's not much that goes on. So I get a little bored. I need something, but
yeah. Is it worsted? DK.
It's DK, but when we were talking about swatching a few episodes back, I had to go down to like a needle size 4 on DK weight, which is just awful. So but it's really thick. It'll be a really thick and warm sweater just because the stitches are so close together. But
do you knit Do you knit the hood separately and then attach it, or is it like a provincial cast? Like, do you pick up?
It's a provisional cast on. So I will just pick up the provisional stitches later. But I was talking to one of my knitting friends a while back, and she's like, oh, just bind off and then pick up those stitches, because structurally it's sturdier when you bind off. Like, that's for Andrea's sweater here. That's what you do. You bind off and then immediately pick those back up, because structurally it's just sturdier when you do that. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to follow the pattern as is and see, because yeah, the hood might be a little floppy structurally, but from what I've seen on the Ravelry photos, it looks good.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. I'm just curious how it will play out according to pattern.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready to go rogue yet, but but I was going to say, I just remembered my other resolution is, so the Ravelry challenge, you can like set a Ravelry project challenge. And last year I did 14 was my challenge. And then I got to 18 this year. And some of those were little projects, like a little scrunchie. And so I think my other knitting resolution or goal is to try to knit 20, but focus on accessories and small things, because I typically don't do that. That's how I kind of started as a knitter. But since I've gotten into sweater knitting and COVID knitting, where it's been the bigger projects, I kind of just forgot about the little things. So I don't have mittens for myself yet. I've knit Jake some nice mittens, but I'd like to do some little accessories, maybe some more scrunchies and
nice
quick projects where it's like, oh, that was fast. I did that in a day or 2 days, you know?
Yes, I miss those. I don't think I've knit accessories in a very long time. I feel like I knit like 1 or 2 hats.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, everything I'm making is like a sweater or a shawl, which we all know I love shawls, but they creep up on you, right? Like, they start off so small and they grow fast, and then like by the time you're done, it's like 400 stitches. So it's like 10 minutes to go across and back, easily one time. And if you're knitting fingering weight, then it doesn't grow very, it's just like, it's a lot of things. And I think that's why I ended up with so many whips. So I used to be like you. I used to only have like 5 whips, but now I'm pretty sure there's like probably 12 to 15 projects that I have just like stashed in various stages of being done. I usually like to have around 3 things on needles, because I usually have something that's like a little more challenging or needs more concentration. And I like to have something that's more mindless, so that like when I'm watching TV or it's like late at night and I'm like not very with it, I can just knit that or whatever. And then I usually like to have one like color work or brioche, like something that I really enjoy, or whatever. But I have too much on needles, and then it's hard because I want to finish those things, like I said, but then every time you have something languish for a long time, and I'm sure it's like this for everybody, like when you go back to it, it takes a minute to be like, where was I? What is the rhythm of this pattern? What is the feel of this yarn? What am I making? And I know it's bad because I have 3 sets of needles. I have a wooden set and 2 ChiaoGoo sets. And like, I still the other day was trying to cast something on or finish a hem or something like that. And like, I couldn't find whatever size, like size 6s. Like, I just could not find them. And I'm like, that's not good. Like, if 3 interchangeable needle sets, I should be able to find whatever size it was I needed.
Yeah.
A little bit embarrassed like about myself. Like, not good. Or cables, like I run out of cables. I'm like, I need a cable this long, and I know I have like 3 or 4 and I can't find them. Not good. So, but I also think I just recently watched somebody's reel, I don't remember who it was, and they were talking about like the joy of frogging things when you go back to pick up whips and they don't bring you joy. And some of the things they were frogging were things that were like over halfway done, and they were just like, this has been sitting for like a year. I'm not enjoying this project anymore. Like, I pick it up, I put it back down, why am I fighting through it? Like, what is the point here of this?
Yeah.
Am I really going to love the outcome that much to like put myself through all these hours of just not enjoying it? And I think I need to go back through some of my bags and just get over the frogging aspect and just like ask myself that question, like, am I still enjoying this process? Because that's like a huge part of knitting for me, right? Is it's,
Mhm.
it is this sort of creative outlet, relaxing, mental engagement, like thing I do for myself. And if I'm not enjoying all those projects that are sitting around in project bags, I'm like, why am I still doing them? So yeah. I did think of another resolution, but I don't know if I'm ready to put it out there. I have been working on, so I started 2 different shawl designs like a long time ago. And I have them still written down, but I haven't, because I
Yeah.
test and stuff and do all these other things in life, I haven't really had time to sit down and work on them. But I do have my one designer, well, I have many designer friends, but my one designer friend is like really pushing me to like finish this one shawl that I have mostly written out, but I just haven't had the time to work on like finishing the sample and solidifying the writing and stuff like that. And so every year I'm like, I'm going to do it this year. And then I never do, but maybe 2022 will be the year.
Yeah. You should do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cute. It's in DK and it has brioche and garter, which is like my favorites. So no surprise there, I guess. And it's a shawl. Also no surprise there. So
Yeah, you should remind yourself that when you are thinking about a test.
mm,
You know, I could pick this test up, or I could spend a little bit more time on my design.
yeah. I find one of the challenges for me about designs, like designing myself or projects that are difficult, like that require my actual concentration, is that I'm often like knitting and then I have to put it down to go like help my kid and then like pick it up and then I'm like knitting and I have to put it down to like go do something else. And then
Yeah.
by the time I can actually sit down and knit, it's like 10 or 11 o'clock at night and I'm really tired. And so being able
Yeah.
to focus and like process all those things at the end of the day is a lot. Like it's a big ask for me sometimes not so big, but some nights I'm just like I can't do it. And so then what ends up happening is that I just don't end up with that solid chunk of like an hour to be able to focus on like writing a design out or figuring out the cable, you know, chart or knitting lace, which for me takes more concentration, right? Or whatever. And so those projects are the ones that end up languishing or like my design doesn't get done because I'm trying to knit it and write it at the same time or whatever. And so that's tricky in my world, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't like that. But
Yeah.
yeah. But you design, you write
Yeah.
first and then knit. Do you knit first and then write?
I kind of do it all at once.
Yeah.
So I'll like write down notes for everything I'm doing with the sample and kind of have I try to do the math and the grading like as I'm sampling
Mm-hmm.
so that it makes it easier later on. But I haven't been really in the design headspace at all lately just because it's so enjoyable to just knit a project. And for me, it takes a while to get into the creative brain space. And I have to want to be in that mental space. So that's usually like I'm a teacher. So summer break is usually when I have a little bit more creative time. I know we just came out of a break, but I didn't feel like designing. It was really nice to finish this and start a new project. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get back into it.
I'm
Just
sure.
taking a little break. Yeah.
Summer coming eventually.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Did we
Well,
want to talk briefly about something that we've cast on
oh,
recently? Or
yes. Well, completely going against my resolution of not casting on things until I finish other things. I cast on something yesterday. This though is a little bit different. If I feel like it falls into a slightly different category, it's a sample, knit. So, I thought about this the other day for newer knitters or for people who don't test or sample knit. Just the difference. I get asked a lot of time by non-knitters, what's the difference? Because I'll be like, oh, I'm testing this, I'm sampling this, and they don't, they're like, what's the difference? So test knit is for a designer who has a pattern that's coming out but isn't out yet. They ask knitters to knit that pattern and give lots of feedback on if things are working or if numbers aren't right or whatever. Excuse me, the knitters are required to get their own yarn usually. Sometimes there's yarn support, but not often. And then they will keep the finished garment at the end and give feedback to the designer and usually get a copy of the pattern. Some designers give you other things too, but a sample knitter, by contrast, usually is knitting for a company or a yarn dyer or a shop or something like that. The person who's requesting the sample will send all the supplies. So they will provide all the yarn, they'll provide the pattern, etc. The sample knitter will make it, and then they will send everything back, usually including any extra yarn, although sometimes companies will tell you to keep it, but usually you send everything back to them, the garment or whatever you're making, all the yarn, etc. But then as being part of that, like you usually get some sort of compensation as a sample knitter. So a lot of indie dyers pay in yarn, which most sample knitters like, but a lot of places sometimes will pay you like so much, so many cents per yard or whatever too, or you just have like an agreed upon amount per garment or whatever. So anyway, just in case people didn't know the difference. So I'm sample knitting. This is very small. So this is a shawl that I tried to work on while watching Harry Potter, and obviously I was very distracted, so I didn't get very far on it yet, but here it is. It's so tiny.
It's so cute, a little baby shawl.
Baby shawl. This is the Opus shawl by Maxim Cyr. I think you can't tell what this pattern is going to look like yet. So just for reference, I printed my pattern in black and white. So his shawl is beautiful gray and blue with a bright yellow, but it looks like this. So there, I think this little guy is so tiny, you just can't see all of that beautiful patterning that's going to happen eventually. The pattern itself is mosaic knitting. So if you did our pressed flowers knit along, or if you've knit the shifty or any of the shift patterns, or many other patterns out there that use mosaic knitting, it's the same idea where you're slipping stitches of a certain color and then knitting them on the next row or whatever to create these sort of color blocks. So it's not intarsia, it's not anything crazy tricky. So it's just that, but I love these colors. The colors, this is Sugar Plum Circus, and the colors are Sandcastle is this main color, the darkest Douglas, the lighter green is called Mary Jane, and then this bright pink pop, which there will be more of, is called Bridget. So
Bridget Jones.
Yeah, like Bridget Jones. So yeah, so this was my little cast on yesterday. He's just a little baby guy, so it'll get bigger. So that's my newest project, and amidst all the other whips that I should be finishing.
I love that design, so you should tell me how it is when you get deeper into it.
I do too. I'm excited to see it sort of unfold as it gets wider. It'll be good. And do you have a newer cast on?
Yes, and it is like the weirdest start to a sweater ever. Well, I'll just show you what it is first. It's the this, I'm probably saying this wrong, but the Sveaborg pullover. It's like a jacket almost.
Is there a zipper in it?
Yeah. So it's got this amazing collar and all the cables, and it's a zip collar. Mm-hmm. And let's see if there's I think there's a bigger photo in here. It's like so beautiful. I actually applied to test for this and did not get accepted, but I'm totally cool with that because I can take my time, and this is going to be pretty complicated. So here's another photo. What sold me was the collar.
Like the giant collar. I love it. Who's the designer?
Sari Nordlund.
Oh,
I hope I'm saying her name right. This is, I think, the third or fourth design that I've knit of hers, and I love everything she does. But so the yarn that it calls for is I think is it Harrison Design? I have the yarn. Harrison
Harrisville.
Designs or Harrisburg Designs
Harrisville.
Daylights.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, I'm gonna
Yeah,
pull
it's
it up.
Harrisville's Daylights, which
Harrisville. Okay,
which
yes.
is like their light version of nightshades. I don't know if you ever used or saw nightshades, but
Yes.
it was basically like tonals of blacks, which like a black
Yeah.
yarn that had like a slight green tint or a slight red tint to it or whatever. It's really
It's
beautiful.
so cool. Like,
So what is this
and
like? Because I'm like obsessed with the nightshades.
oh,
This one
it
looks
is
great.
the coolest. I have some photos that I took of, so, well, there's a story to it. So when I visited Tolt, yes, I have my souvenir, my little mug that I wanted to show, but I went to Tolt twice in the last, I don't know, like 2 months. And it's such a cute shop. It was like a 4-hour round trip drive to get there and back. But they have a lot of beautiful yarns from around the world and a lot of woolen spun yarns, really, you could call it like dank fiber. It's like sticky because it's like the oily, really earthy, gritty yarn. It would this is kind of some of that crunchy yarn too, which I love. But so Tolt has this like, what is it? Harrisville design. I keep saying it wrong. Harrisville design. They have a display with a bunch of cool lights, and they have like alternating with the nightshade and then the daylight, nightshade, daylight.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know. And then the lights hit the little flecks of different colors in different ways. And so if you don't know, the nightshade yarn is like a black base yarn, but with like little specks of like a hint of purple or a hint of green or whatever. And same with the daylight, only see, this looks like an off-white, like natural fiber on the face of it. But is this the purple one? You can't really tell in the camera, can you? But
a little bit.
Maybe you can. There's like little bits of purple and it's so subtle. But I wanted to get all purple, and I was one skein short for this project. So what I ended up doing was I got a rainbow. So I'm doing a rainbow fade. And so I cast on with the red, and then I have like a yellow, which is called like egg yolk. And then I got green, blue, and purple because it calls for five skeins. And It's going to be the most subtle rainbow fade. Like you probably won't be able to tell, but I'll be able to tell. And so I just think it's really cool. It'll be like the most subtle fade ever. But I did get a picture in the snow of the yarn, and just with the white snow contrast, you can actually see a very faint rainbow.
Oh,
so
I love it.
I'll post that to my Instagram just because I'm super excited about the fade. But
that's fun. You should send it to me. I'll post it to our Instagram.
Yeah, I will. And I'll show you what the collar looks like so far too, if I can get it right. Well, I don't know if I think it's all tangled. It might be all tangled, but basically this will be folded over once I knit it long enough. But I'm basically at the start with the collar, and then you pick up stitches on the right and the left and the front and the back, I think, and then eventually you get it all in the round. But
interesting construction.
It's quite a unique construction. It's very different. So yeah.
I'll be interested to track your progress on that one. You'll have to show it later when you're like further into the cabling.
Yeah. If I don't get too frustrated with the cables.
The cables look beautiful though. I think they don't look super complicated.
Yeah, they don't look too bad. And then there's moss stitch in between. But it'll be so just chunky and warm. I'll probably wear it like a jacket, or instead of a jacket.
All over. Yeah. That'll be great. Very cool. Well, that's exciting. Exciting things on your needles. I love it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us on this little adventure. Really hope that you're going to join us on our knit alongs kicking off on January 15th. Again, all the details will be on Instagram. And then don't forget to check out our giveaway, which is also on Instagram, for all of that Knit Picks yummy yarn, Hawthorne yarn. Until then, happy knitting, everybody. I hope you enjoy this fresh start to the new year.
Can't wait to see what y'all knit in 2022.
Yeah, sounds good. Bye.
Bye.